Good day, everyone. Today, I will be discussing Module 6, which focuses on human flourishing and the idea of the development. This topic challenges how we usually define progress. Is progress really about becoming a richer and more advanced country? Or is it about living a meaningful and sustainable life? Let's explore that together. In this module, we aim to understand three main things. First, what human flourishing really means. Second, the concept of de-development. And third, how science and technology influence our well-being. So habang nakikinig kayo, try to reflect. Am I truly flourishing or just surviving in a fast-paced world? Traditionally, progress is measured through economic growth. For example, kapag mataas ang GDP ng bansa, we say developed na siya. But de-develop offers a different perspective. Instead of always wanting more, it promotes sustainability and fair use of resources. For example, instead of mass production and overconsumption, de-development supports simpler living, like reducing waste or choosing sustainable products. The idea of human flourishing actually started in ancient philosophy, but today, society often equates success with money, technology, and status. For example, people think successful ako pag may malaking bahay, magandang kotse, but the question is, does that really make life meaningful? What is human flourishing? Human flourishing means reaching your full potential and living a meaningful life. For example ulit, a teacher who inspires students daily may not be rich, but they are flourishing because they live with purpose. So the real question is, how do we measure progress in life? Is it money or meaning? Okay, let's talk about the philosophical foundations like eudaimonia, Confucianism, and Ubuntu. In philosophy, human flourishing is called eudaimonia. According to Aristotle, it means living with virtue and reason. Meanwhile, Confucianism and Ubuntu emphasize community, yung hindi lang ako kundi tayo. Example of this is helping your family or community grow is also part of your own success. Okay, Aristotle said that the highest good in life is achieved through virtues like courage, justice, and wisdom. So instead of asking, what do I have? We ask, who am I becoming? Example, a person who chooses honesty over cheating is practicing virtue even if it's harder. Kaya nga diba lagi ko sinasabi sa inyo, it's better to fail your subject than to pass na nag-cheat ka. Sabi ko nga, mas makakapasa ka sa subject na to na mabababa ang score kaysa pag nahuli kitang nag-cheat. Okay, let's talk about the modern interpretations of eudaimonia. In modern times, thinkers like Amartya Sen and Martha Nussbaum said development is about expanding people's opportunities. Okay, for example, education is not just about getting a job, but also giving you freedom to choose your future. Sabi nga ni Martha Nussbaum, true well-being is equal to what people can be and do. So in the future, what you become is the result of the things that you can do. Okay, let's talk about modern indices. Let's move to modern ways of measuring human flourishing. Instead of focusing only on money or GDP, different models have been developed to measure what truly makes life good and meaningful, and these are the following. First, we have the OECD Better Life Index. This index looks like different aspects of life such as education, health, income, environment, work-life balance, and even community. So instead of asking, how rich is the country? This chart asks, how well are people actually living? For example, a country may have high income, but if people are overworked and stressed, then their quality of life is not really high. This shows that money alone cannot define happiness or success. Diba? Gaya nga nung sinabi ko sa inyo, if you're going to look at statistics, those people or those country that lives in a very convenient life, like those that are living in a first world country, has higher rates of suicide. Diba, in example ko sa inyo yung we experience trade delays sa Japan, and that is usually caused by someone jumping off the rails. So it doesn't mean that if life is easier, if life is convenient, if life is pera ka nga, it doesn't constitute or it doesn't mean that you are living a virtuous or a happy life. Oo naman, naniniwala ako that happiness can be bought. Diba? Pwede mo siyang bilhin. Pero, hanggang saan ka masaya? Hanggang saan yung kaya mong bilhin na magpapasaya talaga sa'yo? Actually, those happiness are temporary. Okay? Okay. Now, let's talk about the gross national happiness from the country of Bhutan. Bhutan measures progress based on happiness and well-being rather than economic output because they focus on number 1, psychological well-being. Number 2, environmental conversion. Number 3, cultural preservation. And lastly, good governance. For example, instead of building industries that harm the environment, Bhutan prioritizes protecting nature and maintaining cultural traditions. So this shows that the country can choose happiness and sustainability over pure economic growth. Lastly, we have the PERMA model in psychology. It is developed by Martin Seligman. PERMA stands for P, positive emotion, E, engagement, R, relationships, M, meaning, A, accomplishment. So this model explains that what makes individuals truly flourish. For example, positive emotion, that is feeling joy or gratitude. Then, engagement. Ito naman, being deeply involved in what you do or like enjoying your studies or hobbies or anything that you do. Relationships. It is having strong connections with family and friends. Meaning, or having a purpose in life. And A, accomplishment, achieving personal goals. So even if a person is not wealthy, if they have these 5 elements, they can still live a meaningful life. Okay, so hindi lang yung kayamanan or wealth ang nagbibigay ng kaligayahan or happiness or fulfilling life. Ito ding 5 na to. All these models remind us that human flourishing is not just about economic success. It is about balance, happiness, relationships, and purpose. In short, a truly developed society is one where people are not just surviving but genuinely living well. Okay, so who is Jason Hickel? Mahalaga si Jason Hickel sa idea of the development. Hickel suggests that instead of poor countries catching up, rich countries should slow down or catch down. So why? Because overconsumption is harming the planet. Diba sabi ko nga sa inyo? The more na mas convenient yung buhay nila sa ibang bansa, the more they produce kalat. Bakit? Kasi they always patronize single-use products. Okay? Pagkatas na lang gamitin, tinatapon agad. They tend to overconsume. Okay? Example, fashion, diba? Fast fashion industries produce too much waste. If people consume less, we reduce environmental damage. Let's talk about Jason Hickel's perspective. He critiques capitalism for promoting endless growth, which is not sustainable. He suggests that number 1, they should reduce overconsumption, they should redistribute their wealth, and they should focus on well-being. In simple terms, less is more. Jason Hickel warns that if we do not slow down voluntarily, climate change will force us to. For example, mga natural disasters, rising temperatures, or global warming, and resource shortages are really happening today. Nalala nyo nung pandemic, di ba? Nung pandemic, nagkaroon ng forced lockdown. Bawal tayo lumabas lahat. Okay? So, during that time, nag-heal yung butas sa ozone layer. 'Di ba? Kung hindi tayo gagawa ng paraan, si Mother Nature ang gagawa ng paraan para sa atin. So he said that instead of poor countries catching up to grow as much as rich countries could consider reaching more appropriate levels of development. Continuous growth leads to environmental damage and inequality. So, mapapansin nyo, tayo ang kawawa. Kasi tayo, nahuhuli na nga tayo or kulelat na nga tayo. Tapos, sila, they continuously damaging the environment. Tayo, most of our resources, we get them from the environment. So, de-development promotes living well with less. So, choosing reusable items instead of disposable ones is a small step towards sustainability. Okay, so sabi niya nga dyan, continuous growth is environmental degradation and inequality. The development is equal to living well with less. So that will promote equity, sustainability, and moral responsibility. Okay, so we should rethink our progress. Let's put in mind that GDP is not equal to true progress, or gross domestic products are not equal to true progress. Okay, so this slides reminds us that GDP is not equal to real progress. Other models like donut economics focus on balancing human needs and environmental limits. Ayan yung donut economics natin. It focus on balancing human needs and environmental limits. Also, buen vivir. Ano ba yung buen vivir? Buen vivir teaches us to live in harmony with nature and community. So to conclude human flourishing, it is not about having more, but about being more. The development challenges us to rethink progress and prioritize sustainability, equality, and meaning. So I leave you with this question. Are we truly progressing or just consuming? Okay, so I will let you watch this short clip and paki-review yung mga data na sasabihin dito because most of them paki-analyze and take note of the data na ibibigay dito sa short video na ito kasi lalabas yan sa quiz nyo for the next meeting. Paki-watch ng maigi and be ready for a quiz next face-to-face meeting natin. Okay? Have a good day and I hope this video and take note of the important factors that we have discussed today. So please watch this video that I will be playing. Bye!
Most economists argue the pursuit of economic growth is both good and necessary. But is it? In the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, more than 1,100 economists, scholars, and climate activists from over 60 countries signed an open letter calling for an end to a capitalist system which pursues growth at all costs. Instead, they advocated for degrowth, a concept that directly challenges the long-held view that more is always better. Put simply, the objective of degrowth is to ensure that life is at the centre of our economic systems. That means challenging the idea that economic growth is good for everyone and instead focusing directly on making people happier and healthier. Ever since the metric of gross domestic product, or GDP, was first proposed in 1937, policymakers have been striving to increase this measure of a country's economic welfare. However, advocates of degrowth say GDP shouldn't be considered a proxy for progress, arguing there's an urgent need for us to learn how to live better while producing less. So, what would that look like? Rich countries would be urged to reduce inequality through measures such as job guarantees, a shorter working week, and potentially a universal basic income. It would require high-income countries to dramatically scale down energy and resource use. Low-income countries, meanwhile, should continue to grow their economies in a sustainable way, at least until they reach a level of parity with middle-income nations. One of the core aims of degrowth is to tackle the idea that every sector of the economy must grow all the time, regardless of whether or not we actually need it. Advocates argue that instead of growing sectors such as the arms and automotive industries, more focus should be placed on areas such as public transportation and renewable energy. But what about the risks associated with a slowing economy? Critics of degrowth worry about just that. with some pointing to 2020's sharp economic contraction as one example. The spread of COVID last year coincided with the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Strict public health measures and reduced mobility saw the global economy contract by 4.3%. Some describe this sharp slowdown as degrowthism in action, though degrowthers themselves said this was misleading and rejected such criticism. They say degrowth is different because it is a planned contraction that aims to be equitable. By contrast, a recession is an unplanned event that can exacerbate inequality and reduce well-being. They even argued the economic crisis was in fact related to our dependence on growth. Leading proponents of the movement have also stressed that degrowth does not call for a reduction in personal income, noting that rich countries already have more than enough resources to secure good lives for everyone. While degrowth has received renewed attention in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, the idea itself first gained prominence in the early 1970s. The history of the degrowth movement can be traced back to 1972, when French philosopher André Gorz first coined the term décroissance. Translated into English as degrowth, Gorz questioned whether the Earth's natural balance was compatible with the survival of a capitalist system that pursues relentless economic growth. In the same year, a think tank called the Club of Rome published a book entitled Limits to Growth. In it, researchers from MIT predicted that our seemingly never-ending appetite for industrial growth would see civilization collapse sometime in the 21st century. This idea was widely criticized at the time, and in 2002, one Danish academic even suggested the book should be relegated to the dustbin of history. Researchers at the University of Melbourne, however, argued that more than 40 years on, the book's forecasts appear accurate. And if we continue to track in line with its projections, we should expect to see the early stages of global collapse appearing soon. In the decades since these discussions were first published, increasing alarm over the scale and speed of the climate crisis has sharpened the focus on ideas that tackle rampant consumerism in high-income countries. So much so that in September 2019, Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg delivered an emotional anti-growth speech at the UN Climate Summit in New York.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you!
Despite the ongoing pandemic, a recent global survey found that most people perceive climate change to be the biggest threat to their countries. The United Nations has recognized the environmental emergency as a defining issue of our time, warning that in order to keep global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius, global emissions must be cut to zero by 2050. That's a huge undertaking, and one that will require far-reaching and unprecedented changes across all aspects of society. With worldwide mobility brought to a standstill in 2020, the coronavirus crisis led to the largest ever decline of global emissions on record. To some, it elevated hopes that carbon emissions had peaked and illustrated the potential for a long-term, low-carbon recovery. Nonetheless, pollution at the end of 2020 rebounded to pre-lockdown levels as economies gradually opened up, prompting the International Energy Agency to stress that this should serve as a stark warning to world leaders. The US and European Union have crafted policies in recent years to cut carbon emissions and invest in renewable energy, focusing on green growth instead of degrowth, much to the dismay of some in the degrowth movement. While degrowth has yet to go mainstream, there have been some green shoots of progress in recent years. Scotland, Iceland, and New Zealand have all pledged to prioritise well-being rather than solely focusing on economic growth. Perhaps it won't be too long before others are tempted to follow suit. Thanks for watching. Do you feel economic growth is essential to your future? Do let us know in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.